Let's start with England because we gave Tommy T a hard time.
We did.
And they go out and they get what you might call a statement win without a lot of their big guns, from Saka to Bellingham to Cole Palmer. They absolutely wiped the floor, I thought, with Serbia. Let me just get this out of the way. Credit to Tuchel because he understands enough of this country how the bandwagon works, and if they screw this up, they'll still qualify. But the negativity,
he was under pressure already.
But this is what he needed.
Yeah,
Serbia, I have to say, made it very easy for him, especially my man Stojkovic, who one of my favorite footballers growing up.
Absolutely.
But yeah, totally misread this in the setup, going 5-4-1. Poor Dusan Vlahovic up front on his own against potentially not fully fit Mark Gay. Made no sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think Stojkovic has been terrible since he took over the national team anyway. So that is still a team with good players, but you're right. Like the game plan was wrong. And to be fair, with Serbia, we often kind of big them up, and actually they often disappoint us, right?
They're usually less than the sum of their parts, I think is the technical term.
But you're right. But I think Tuchel needed a win like this, needed a performance like this after 4 games where we were left a bit like, there's not much to learn here. They don't play great. They against teams that are not very good, arguably. Serbia is better than Andorra, but England still, I think, had the best performance under Tuchel, and it's good to see.
I think you're right about the performance, right? Because I know in that first half, they score, they go 2-0 up. And I thought, okay, and I'm not being mean to Gareth Southgate, but I thought under the old England manager, who, if he was in that situation, right, lackluster performance against Andorra, whatever, because look, it's hard. It's still 10 bodies in the box, no matter how bad they are, right? You said, okay, let's just bring it home, 2-0. At that point, we were virtually guaranteed a spot at the World Cup. Case closed. But instead, I thought like he wanted to keep the intensity up.
Yeah.
He wanted to keep the performance up. The players followed him on it. And it may be that, some of these guys, when you look sort of from the midfield up, maybe Declan Rice is the only person who can feel pretty confident he'll be starting at the World Cup. Everybody else, and Harry Kane, obviously, everybody else is kind of fighting for a spot. And they all responded. And I thought that was almost, I don't say it was brave from Tuchel because Serbia were objectively so bad. Even after making the change at halftime, it almost made them worse because they weren't prepared for it. But I thought that's really encouraging.
Yeah, it was. And you're right. There's the first goal for Madueke, one for Gehi, one for Konsa, which is always good. The Madueke goal is a great team goal too. Elliot Anderson was, we said it after the Andorra game, you can't really judge anybody, even a guy with his first cap. This was obviously a step up, even if, as we said, Serbia were not very good. And I thought Anderson was really good. And I don't think he would start at the World Cup, but he's a good player to have in your squad, whether it's one space for him or Wharton. We will find out later in the season. But that was good for him. But that Madueke goal is a great goal with movement, with triangles, with intensity, verticality, which I think Tuchel will like a lot. There's goals on set pieces, which is good because it's something to have with you as a team going into a tournament. Rice takes them really well, obviously, with his Arsenal links. They have big people. They got a little bit lucky on some. But so, I thought overall it was something that I think Tuchel would be very happy with.
Kind of the elephant in the room. And it's funny because, again, lifting the lid a little bit, there's been a lot of negativity about Jude Bellingham out there and people talking about Jude Bellingham's dad. And these stories, they don't come out of nowhere, right? Obviously, Bellingham's injured right now. He's out of the picture. I mean, is this a thing? Is this an issue? Is it that Tuchel needs to deal with?
Where would you play? So when he's back, let's say he's back to starting with Real Madrid in a kind of midfield 3 over there, and you're Thomas Tuchel. So Rice is your indispensable, one of the double pivot. What do you have next? Or do you change your midfield to a midfield 3? What do you do with Bellingham and what's his best position for England?
That is a great question because we don't even know right now how he's going to be used at Real Madrid. We said in the 3, but in the 3 with what responsibility? And what would it mean for Cole Palmer, for example? So I think there's a lot of issues there. And also there's the personality aspect of it. Look, I mean, let's not hide about it. It is an issue that a lot of people highlighted during the Euros. But we're going to break this down further on the Gab and Juls podcast. All right, let's proceed with Bellingham. And I'd like to kind of do two things with this. One, we can talk about hypothetically where he fits on the pitch. I mean, you asked me before. I think his future is in central midfield, both for Real Madrid and for England. This thing at number 10, it was a necessity. He did the job really, really well. England have other options there, better options. Real Madrid have other options there, better options in that role. Bellingham was one of the best central midfielders in Europe. I've said this a million times. I'm not going to repeat myself. You agree with that, right?
Yeah, I'm just...
if he wants to.
Yeah, if he wants to, and if he's in a double pivot or not, because he still has to defend far more than we've seen him, what seems like, willing to defend when he played in a two, especially for England. There's games where he's fine. Rice can do all the defensive work because you're going to have 70% of the ball. There are other games where it's not enough. And that's the issue, is what does he want himself? Because people say he wants to score goals and assist and be around the opposition box more than anything else, more than doing the kind of dirty work. And if that's the case, then that role in a double pivot doesn't really suit him.
I would like to think that once you're at a World Cup training camp, Bellingham looks around and says, assuming everybody's fit, hey, that Cole Palmer guy, that Morgan Rogers guy, they're really good. Are they better than me? No, of course not. However, is the guy who's going to come in alongside Declan Rice in that double pivot role, is that guy substantially worse than he would look at the trade-off? He would say, I like to think he's such an egomaniac that he would say, hey, look, I'm better than Palmer and Rogers, but Palmer and Rogers are far better than whoever comes in alongside Declan Rice. Yeah. And that is why at this World Cup, I will sacrifice myself. I will go there, especially in the knockout. Early on, we play them up, it's fine. But once in the knockouts, once you're playing France, and once you're playing Brazil, and so on, and you need somebody to be that leadership, to go and growl, and Declan Rice can't do it on his own. Plus, I'm a much better passer than Declan Rice. I will go and I will embrace that number 6 if we play 4-2-3-1. I would hope that he would understand this and he would go through this.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm not convinced. And also, I'm not convinced about his quality as a passer. And I think if you have Rice there, you maybe need a better passer next to him that will also put the work and the shift in. And then that's where there's a kind of a Bellingham dilemma, in the sense that you bench Palmer or put Palmer wide, so you can have Palmer on the right, Saka on the left, Bellingham as a kind of a 10, or slightly different, a bit of that freedom in midfield, plus, let's say, Rice and Elliot Anderson.
Do you need a passer? Wharton or Anderson? That's what you're hoping for. Yeah. But one guy's still a kid.
Yeah.
In fact, they're both still kids.
Both still kids.
And I don't know Anderson, this season at Forest, given, I have no idea how they're going to play now with Ange. We're going to get to that later. But I have no idea if he can continue developing and how he's going to develop. So these are a lot of things for him to sort out. One thing that they made a huge deal out of here in England, and understandably so, is that, other than Rice and Kane, we're talking basically B team for England from the midfield and strikers. And you look at Morgan Rogers, Madueke, we've talked about, Gordon, Rashford came on. These guys, are these guys kind of auditioning for the position? Do you think Tuchel's told them, like, hey, look, I know Saka and Palmer are Saka and Palmer, but I'm going to pick whoever's better when the World Cup comes around?
No, I think they know that if there's no injuries to Palmer and Saka, they are the Serb. What's interesting for Madueke, for example, is that it clearly looks like him or Bowen for that right-hand side behind Saka. And clearly on those 2 games, he was the one starting. He was the one that more than Bowen. So it looks like, for example, Madueke is ahead of Bowen. For the number 10 position, is he between Rogers and Eze to be the sub of Palmer? It looks like it.
And the sub of Bellingham, if Bellingham has his way.
Yeah, exactly. Because at some point, even if you're allowed to take 25 or 26 players to the 2026 World Cup, which should be the case, again, there's no reason why they would change and go back to 23, you still can't take like 12 forwards and just the rest for the other positions. So Tuchel will have to make a decision. And we saw Eze starting against Andorra and obviously not starting against Serbia when Roger started in his position. So he feels a bit like, okay, let me try you. I try you. I saw what you could bring. Let me try you now in this position, in that position. I see you. And it still feels like Tuchel has used a lot of players really so far since he took over in January.
Which is a very Tuchel move.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Completely. And I think soon he will have a good idea. Okay, I want Saka and then, I don't know, Madueke. I want Palmer and Rodgers. I want Gordon and Eze on the left, or Rashford and Eze, or Eze and somebody else.
It seems like the left is the position that's probably on paper most up for grabs, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're right. There's not one Saka or one Palmer for the left.
But I think what helps Madueke there too is the fact that he can and has played on the left loads, and he can do that very well.
Yeah.
And will probably play more. I mean, if he gets into Arsenal, if he cracks Arsenal starting 11 when everybody's fit, it's going to be on the left. It's not going to be on the right.
Yeah.
Other point on this, Harry Kane's backup, we assume it's Watkins.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking somebody who can also step in and play center forward. I mean, Palmer's done it. I don't know if that necessarily works. You have to make a lot of adjustments for that. We see Morgan Rogers do it occasionally.
Yeah.
That's something that might help Rogers more than somebody else.
Yeah, a bit of versatility. I guess the same with Rashford, who can play different positions. Madueke, you said, right or left. He can do both, even if he's more naturally better on the right hand side. But yeah, so I think this is good, and I don't think Tuchel will have a kind of massive headache on who do I pick, because you're right. I don't think as much as, because we haven't spoken about Foden, for example. Why if Foden becomes good again?
Who's
exactly?
Who's that? Who?
But he might become at some point like Phil Foden, you know, that guy.
Yeah.
Or not. But if he does,
we could talk about Jadon Sancho too. Then why not?
Exactly too, for that left hand side, or wherever it feels like it. But yeah, so that's also and Jack Grealish. So there will be people who could
really pushing the boat out.
People who could come back into his mind. However, I think he's 26 should be still pretty straightforward.
I think he has an embarrassment of riches, but like I said, I think the only people whose places are 100% booked are Rice in the attacking arm. Are Rice, Kane, and Saka. I mean, even Palmer. You could see a scenario where things don't work out, and maybe because he has other options. Maybe Palmer too. But like, it's he's going to have some big calls to make, and we'll have a lot of time to talk about it. On the other hand, at the back, the situation is not so pretty. There were suggestions Mark Gay would miss this game, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, man, Dan Burn against Dusan, like that's going to be fun to watch. In the end, Gay started, scored. You played with Ezri Konsa. On paper, you could say, okay, this is an England team where the center backs come from Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. Not great on paper. Obviously, Gay might have been a Liverpool player, might yet be a Liverpool player. And Konsa obviously could play at a higher level too. Neither one screams out Bobby Moore right now. Gay possibly over time. And then behind them, it's not great.
I mean, it's John Stones, really. That's the best centre back they have. It's just he pulled out before the underway game because he was injured. There's always question mark over his fitness. But I think if you put a Stones Gehi where they're both 100% partnership there, it's very solid and it complements each other really well. The thing is, with Stones, I think it's difficult to plan because of his injuries.
And it's also, I think, not on a level with the rest of the team.
But
I think Levi Colwill missing the season and possibly the World Cup, I have no idea when he's coming back or what condition he'll be in, I think is another blow in terms in terms of options. In the fullback role, I was surprised that see Reece James twice. I don't, I'm just so used to seeing, obviously that's a position where maybe we might see Trent coming back or so on. I think they're okay there. I think Reece James is more plug and play than Trent, because once you have Trent, you have to make adjustments that you don't make with Reece James. Flip side with James is obviously his injury record, right? Livramento, as you know, I'm a huge fan of.
And did well on that.
And I think he can play either flank easily.
I think he's in if the season with Newcastle is good, and obviously playing in Champions League will also help him. And then you've got like Miles Lewis-Skelly, for example, who started the first game, played the first game, and then was left out completely of the squad. And obviously they had to because they had too many players. But I thought that was a little bit strange, and I'm not sure if he's ready to play for England in a World Cup.
A lot's going to depend
in the rounds.
A lot's going to depend on what his season looks like for Arsenal, because with the arrival of Hincapie as well, you can see, I mean, again, talking about a guy with options, right? Arteta can put Hincapié right back, Timber at left back.
Yeah.
You've got Calafiori at left back. Ben White is still there somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Lewis Skelly's still a guy who played midfield most of his life.
Yeah.
And then he had a tremendous half a season at left back. So, yeah, that's somebody who I don't think that's somebody whose name you don't write down in ink for the World Cup squad at this stage. But overall, they're in good shape. They remind us they can raise their game. I was impressed with the way Tuchel did that. I think, like I said, some of his predecessors, they would have said, all right, let's just play this safe, see it out, get the win, and then we don't have to talk to all these England reporters until October.
Yeah.
But instead they went for it, and they were vindicated.